Welcome back to the channel. This will be another Club World Cup fantasy video and podcast. This time it will be a chip strategy guide, and there will be a few slides that are reminiscent of what you saw in my how to play video, but there will also be even more slides discussing every single one of the boosters and the best time to use every single one of those chips. And on screen you can see the club rankings according to Opta, and you got PSG, Manchester City, Bayern Munich, Inter Milan and Real Madrid in the top 5, followed by Chelsea, Atletico Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, Benfica, Juventus, Porto, Palmeiras, Al Hilal, Flamengo, River Plate, Al Ahly, and it's also followed up by the second half of the teams participating, and that includes Botafogo, Red Bull Salzburg, also Monterrey, Los Angeles, who replaced Lyon, which I also discussed in my how to play video as well. There's Boca Juniors, Mamelodi Sundowns, Inter Miami, Seattle Sounders, Fluminense, Pachuca, also ES Tunis, Ural Red Diamonds, Wydad Casablanca, Ulsan HD, Al Ain, and finally Auckland City, who are definitely one to target for Matchday 1 when Bayern Munich face them on the 15th of June. But those are the participating teams. I discussed every single group and where they also lie in terms of their fixtures for match days 1 to 3, and more will be discussed in future videos on podcasts. If you want to see a predicted lineups like I did for FPL at the beginning of the season and also for the Euros last summer, then let me know down in the comment section below. I'm also looking to do best differentials, budget picks, and a few other segments like that on top of my drafts, team selections, and deadline streams. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. If you haven't already, join my Club World Cup Fantasy Mini League by typing in the code, which is XBTI0RQ5, and there's also an auto-join link to make things even simpler, and we've got hundreds of members already, so you can add to the list, and all your points from Matchday 1 will count, even if you join a little bit later in the competition. But what I'll be doing in this video is discussing all the chips and the best time to use every single one of them, and all the intricate details of how this game works can be found in my how to play guide, and a first draft video is already out on the channel, so be sure to like this video, subscribe, and also hit the notification bell so you never miss a single upload or live stream for Club World Cup Fantasy, FPL, and UCL Fantasy. There are many links in the description, which includes my Patreon and the championships, furlacks to my videos, amongst many other perks. The Discord server, Club World Cup Fantasy League, and Spotify can also be found in the description. But let's discuss those chips and the best time to use every single one of those boosters. There's one chip which will be familiar to you if you have played FPL, UCL Fantasy, or the Euros, and even the World Cup, which is identical to this game, by the way, and that is definitely the one that you want to refer to when finding out some of the rules or maybe reminding yourself of how this game will work. So the Wildcard will allow you to make unlimited transfers, and you can't use it in match days 1 or 4 because everyone gets unlimited transfers anyway. And I will have more slides on the wildcard in particular, so that will describe it in even more detail, just in case there are a few details you aren't really aware of. Now with the 12th man, it enables you to choose one additional player to score points for your team in a specific match day. When selected, the 12th man can't be substituted, captained, or transferred, and you can pick any player to be your 12th man as long as you don't have this player in your team already. So you can't duplicate Lionel Messi, for example, and you have to pick somebody else entirely. Budget or team restrictions do not count here. So unlike the assistant manager in FPL, where you need to save a bit of budget to go for a chosen manager who costs 1.5 million in that case, or 0.8 million, you actually don't need to worry at all about the budget. You just go for any player you want as your 12th man. You might have Haaland, Messi, and Kane as your free forwards, and you want to pick Garassi as your 12th man, to name one particular example. But let's move on to the other two chips. So these are brief explanations about every single one of them, and then we'll talk about more details surrounding every single booster and the best time to use them. So the Maximum Captain used to be called the Power Captain back in 2022 for the World Cup in Qatar, which I covered on this channel. Once activated, you will earn double points from whichever player scores the most points from your starting 11. This player will automatically be assigned the captaincy, so you click the button and you don't have to worry about anything else. With the mystery chip, this booster will be revealed after the matchday 3 deadline when the round of 16 opens, so that means you can make transfers for matchday 4 after the matchday 3 deadline, and that's when this chip will be revealed. It can be used for one round during the knockout stages, so it has to be either in matchday 4 5, 6, or 7 for the Club World Cup final. That is the window for the mystery chip. Now, all chips except the wildcard can be reversed before the matchday deadline. This can be achieved by clicking the deactivate button on your chosen booster, and you can find every single chip by clicking that orange icon on the FIFA app or also on the play zone of the FIFA website, where you go to the Club World Cup Fantasy section and it will be very easy to find all those boosters. A chip can only be used once and multiple boosters can't be used at the same time. So you can't put the wildcard in Matchday 2 and also activate the 12th man. That is never the case in UCL Fantasy, the Euros, also FPL. You can't use 2 chips at the same time, and whenever you activate a booster, that will be for the upcoming deadline. You can't activate it after, let's say, a game has happened or you've got a lineup for a particular match, and let's say, for example, you want to see if Harry Kane starts against Auckland City, and of course that game will be the second one of Matchday 1 and also the second game of this tournament. So you can't actually activate the 12th man afterwards, because if you do that, it will be for the next deadline going into Matchday 2. So hopefully that is crystal clear. Both the 12th man and the maximum captain chips were in the previous World Cup Fantasy Edition, which I referred to with the power captain, aka the maximum captain, but not with the 12th man. I actually used that chip on Mbappe in Matchday 1, and he got 9 points there, I think against Australia, if I remember correctly. And with the maximum captain, I used it for Matchday 7 for the World Cup final, and once again, I got points from Mbappe, who scored a World Cup final hat-trick. Otherwise, I was quite keen on going for Messi, who did very well, scoring a brace, but Mbappe got that extra goal. So that's where you can find some gains using these chips. Let's now move on, though, to the wildcard in particular. So this allows you to make unlimited changes. We all know this. Any players you buy will remain in your squad once that match day has finished. It can only be used once, and you have budget constraints and can't activate the wildcard in match days 1 or 4. All hits will be cancelled once you deploy this chip, and this is the only irreversible booster. Once it has been activated, you can't cancel the wildcard. Normal rules for subs, formations, and captaincy still apply. Now, I've actually got a table for this booster. So you've only got one wildcard. It gives you unlimited transfers, and there is no unlimited budget like you would get with the Limitless in UCL Fantasy, and the team will not reset once the match day is over. So this table, you know, I love my tables from the How to Play guide, but guess what? There is yet another one to compare a strategy of using the wildcard early during the group stages or saving it for the knockout rounds. So first off, you can target the weakest teams and earn even higher scores during the group phase, but on the other hand, rotation is more common during the group stages, so the wildcard could be wasted. Now, Club World Cup Fantasy is a short format compared to FPL, so getting off to a strong start is crucial, but on the other hand, we can build a better wildcard team during the knockouts as we identify the best players and teams with an increased budget of 5 million in Matchday 4 for the round of 16, which is exactly what we get for UCL Fantasy as well. But this short format I'm referring to is only 7 match days, just like you would get with the Euros or the World Cup. So you really want to get off to a flying start ideally and work your way up from there. And as things get more template towards the end of this competition, you have virtually secured some of your rankings and also the mini league standings that you want, because by that stage it becomes more difficult to make those rank rises. Now, the wildcard can help you tackle rotation in match day 3 because some teams would have secured top spot or qualification to the next round, but rotation can be difficult to predict. You may include some players who end up getting benched regardless, so that's the kind of downside to wildcarding in matchday 3 or even in matchday 2. But if you save it for the knockout stages, there are some advantages to doing that sort of thing. Now, there are more transfers in the knockouts and also a 5 million increase to your budget, but there is a risk of having multiple eliminated players, and the wildcard can bail you out of that situation. You get unlimited transfers in matchday 4 ahead of the round of 16. This will help you prepare for the entire knockout stages, so you could argue that the wildcard isn't needed from match days 5 onwards, but with significant prize money on offer, the best players should start more often than not, and this is even more likely during the knockout stages. I just think with rotation, you could get an example of Bayern Munich against Auckland City. They could play some fringe players and rotate some of their best assets and save them for the more important rounds or tougher fixtures. And for match day 3, I think some teams that have secured qualification could end up rotating quite heavily, and that's something we commonly see in the Champions League. Maybe not so much this season, but even in Matchday 8 we saw a little bit of rotation. In the Euros and the World Cup for Matchday 3 we always get a few surprises on board. Now, manual substitutions aren't possible in Matchday 7 for the Club World Cup final, so you only need a starting 11, and with 6 free transfers for Matchday 7, it makes it very easy to build your ideal Club World Cup final team. So that's where the wildcard isn't that important for the semi-finals, and especially for the Club World Cup final in Matchday 7. But having the wildcard from Matchday 5 onwards allows you to pick more differentials and be aggressive in a time where things become more template in this game, as we have fewer teams left in the competition. We don't have as many options at our disposal, and that means every single differential you can go for can be massive, especially at that stage of the competition. So those are the pros and cons, and also, one side of the argument using the wildcard early, and on the other hand, saving it for the knockout stages. I did something similar for UCL Fantasy last season, but let's now discuss other aspects of this chip before moving on to the 12th man, the maximum captain, and the mystery chip. So saving the wildcard for the knockout stages is a viable strategy. While Matchday 5 to 7 is a decent time to use this chip, I would recommend using it in Matchday 2 or 3. This allows you to navigate future swings within the group stages. With only 7 match days in this competition, getting off to a strong start will be critical. The unlimited transfers in match days 1 and 4 provides a great opportunity to optimize your squad for match days 2 and 3 using the wildcard chip. And if I had to pick only one match day, I would lean towards match day 2 at the moment. But remember, you can't use 2 boosters at the same time, so you might also be looking to use the 12th man or maximum captain chip in match day 2, so that would push you towards a wildcard in match day 3 instead. So be very mindful about that when deciding when to use this chip, which is the most important of any of them. As much as the 12th man and the maximum captain boosters are something different and you rarely see them in fantasy games, I don't think the ceiling or what you gain from those boosters are as high as the wildcard, which can be a long-term tool as it is with any fantasy football game. But let's now move on to the next booster, which is the 12th man. You can use this chip during any match day. The weakest teams can be targeted more effectively throughout the group stages. Using the 12th man is plausible in the knockouts, but the ceiling of this chip and your players in general is lower on paper. My recommendation is to use the 12th man between match days 1 to 3, and at the moment I am looking at match day 1, which is something I did for the World Cup in Qatar several years ago. And like I mentioned there, in the previous World Cup, I went for Mbappe and he delivered 9 points overall, which is a decent return. But as you can see, it's not like a massive gain. And you could even see it to a similar extent as the triple captaincy in a single game week, where maybe the expectation is quite high. But realistically, if you get double digits in terms of a return from your 12th man, you'll be very happy with that particular pick. Now, going into the maximum captain, similar to the 12th man, you can deploy the maximum captain whenever you want. That includes match day 1. The ceiling will be higher during the group stages, so it can be used effectively early on. However, it's also easier to get a captaincy haul without the maximum captain during match days 1 to 3, particularly in match day 1 and 2, I would say. This will only become more difficult as the tournament progresses, with some difficult games to call on paper. You might even get like a 2 heavyweights in the semi-finals or final, like Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, and you might not know which team is going to win or which players will end up hauling. But match day 6 or 7 looks ideal for this booster, just like it was in World Cup Fantasy. And I mentioned this example earlier in this video. I utilized the Power Captain, as it was called back then, ahead of match day 7 of World Cup Fantasy, and secured a World Cup final hat-trick through Mbappe against Argentina. Now, the final chip is the mystery booster, but we don't know anything about it except that this booster will be revealed after the matchday 3 deadline when the round of 16 opens. It can be used for 1 round during the knockouts. Once the chip is unveiled, we'll find out whether it's best deployed in matchday 4, 5, 6 or 7. I would consider activating the mystery chip during matchday 4 or 5 as things stand, but with more information and actually knowing what this booster is, this might change to matchday 6 or 7. But to be honest, the main reason why I'm looking at matchday 4 or 5 right now is because with the maximum captain, that looks best utilized in matchday 6 or 7. So that prevents a clash with the mystery chip, and you can't use 2 chips simultaneously, as mentioned several times in this video. So to recap, the chip strategy at the moment is to use the 12th man in either matchday 1 or 2. and I'm looking at Matchday 1 at the moment. The wildcard will be used in Matchday 2 or 3, and my current preference is Matchday 2. The mystery chip, I'll be honest, I can't really highlight one matchday in particular because we don't even know what the bloody booster is, but Matchdays 4 to 5 looks pretty decent on paper, and the Maximum Captain, I would highly recommend using it towards the very end of the competition. So I'd say Matchday 7 might be the ideal time, but this could also be well utilized in Matchday 6. And don't get me wrong, you could use certain boosters at a completely different stage of the competition, like the 12th man in the knockouts or the Maximum Captain in the group stages, but I think this is the best strategy on paper, and this will fit a lot of different play styles in terms of how you approach Club World Cup Fantasy or fantasy games in general, and I think this is a very solid platform for success in this tournament. We have approached the end of the Club World Cup Fantasy Chip Strategy Guide. I hope this has been very helpful. I believe watching this and the How to Play video and podcast will be very insightful, and it will give you several ideas of how to tackle this game, even if you've never played the Euros or the World Cup, which are very similar in terms of the format. Only 7 match days, and some of the boosters are identical. So I do think these videos will give you some decent ideas and a solid platform to approach Club World Cup Fantasy in the best possible way. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it insightful, then like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also hit the notification bell so you never miss a single upload or live stream for Club World Cup Fantasy, UCL Fantasy, and FPL. Follow me on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, further links to my videos, amongst many of the perks, the Discord server, Club World Cup Fantasy League, and Spotify can also be found in the description. I'll see you very soon for more Matchday 1 content. That will include a latest draft, a team selection, a deadline stream, and there could also be predicted lineups, best budget picks, differentials, and players to avoid.